Yeah. I'm always ready when it's game time. Hustle in my blood, I'ma make mines. Where I'm trying to go, it's gonna take time. You can earn your respect, I'ma take mine. In a lane of my own, I'm in the zone.
Hello and welcome to Going the Distance, where we share stories of faith, sports, and everything in between. So let's get into it. The Washington Nationals won their first World Series championship in franchise history after being swept at home during games 3, 4, and 5. Now, the Astros were the favorite heading into the Fall Classic. They fought hard after being down 2 games. Then there's that controversial call in Game 6 with reliever Will Harris waiting patiently on the mound. Waiting to deal his first pitch, no doubt. But Anthony Rendon connected with his second pitch for a 2-run homer, changing the momentum of the game in favor of the Nats. Now, a lot of pressure and blame gets put on the pitcher. That's why it's important for players not to get wrapped up in wins or losses. And Will Harris knows all too well what that feels like. But he says keeping his priorities in order is what helps him relax so he can bounce back and continue slinging it from the mound.
Baseball has often been described as a game where you fail more times than you succeed. But failing on the job is one thing, failing at home is another. And for Houston Astros reliever Will Harris, finding the balance between the two is a lesson he had to learn early in his career when he made the jump to the majors while learning how to be a husband and father.
Raising kids in professional baseball is not an easy thing, and so and it's not easy on the wives at home, and so having to balance, raising children, relationships with your wife, and communication. You travel a lot, so it can be more difficult if you're trying to be a rock for your family, but you're not there all the time. That can be a difficult thing.
Will debuted in the big leagues in 2012 with the Colorado Rockies, but his career didn't start off the way he wanted. I
struggled very badly. I didn't handle it well mentally. It just put a lot of pressure on myself. I felt that pressure of, I really need to start doing better here or this could end for me.
For fear of being sent back to the minors, Will devoted most of his time adjusting his curveball and cutter pitches to big league style of play. The game eventually became his #1 priority.
I think I kind of had baseball a little bit too high in the sky on a pedestal of what I wanted to be, and so when you fail at that, it's like, okay, well, what's left,
At home, his wife Caroline was learning how to be a mom, which was also challenging, especially since each of their mothers passed away.
My wife, she didn't have a lot of help. Neither one of us have mothers, so there was no grandmothers in the picture to help her in those early stages of motherhood. And, it was her first time, it was my first time. And so me not being there and being able to help her on a day-to-day basis was very difficult on her, which in turn made it difficult, on me.
To make matters worse, Will's career kept him moving. In April of 2013, he was traded to the Oakland A's, but 3 days later, he was traded again to the Arizona Diamondbacks, where he bounced back and forth to the minors. The time away from his family caused him to refocus on his priorities, especially his faith.
Just kind of took it upon myself to kind of rebuild who I was, or what was important to me, and kind of change my priorities and the pecking order of my faith, and then, be a good husband and be a good dad, and then baseball would come after all of that. Me and my wife were Christians, but I think we just kind of took it upon ourselves to maybe dive a little deeper and be better for my daughter.
Prioritizing their faith helped Will and Caroline embrace the ebb and flow of professional baseball.
We finally got to the point where it was like, whatever's going to happen, we're going to do it together. We're not going to be separated anymore. And so when I got sent down again to Reno, they came with me, and we got an apartment. I wasn't living in hotels anymore. It was like, that's wherever we're going, we're going to do it together. And we moved in our apartment, and that day, that apartment we moved into, it was underneath a billboard sign on the interstate, and it was a picture of Jesus, and it said, "Trust in the Lord." And it was one of those moments where we both saw it and was like, we're doing the right thing.
With a new perspective, Will's career began to take off. In 2015, he signed with Houston. 2 seasons later, he became a World Series champion. Now, as he heads further into this season, he understands the importance of keeping his relationship with Christ above everything else.
It's the center, man. It's the rock that it's an everlasting relationship. It's there all the time. And I think people think that like the leap of faith that you take in the Lord is like this giant canyon you have to jump over. And it's not. It's just slow steps that you can take in your faith and your Christianity, and it'll grow over time. If it's a commitment that you can make and stay true to it and have belief in it and have faith that this is the right way, your life will just be so much more fulfilled than it was before.
Wow. You've got to keep things in perspective. And what an amazing series. Look, congratulations to the Nationals organization. Job well done. We'll be right back after this.
Get the Transforming Word, Volume 3. Pat Robertson records powerful selections from the Book of Proverbs.
The Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. He holds success in store for the upright.
As you listen to the Transforming Word, Volume 3, you'll be rejuvenated by the anointed Word of God, be inspired by the calming presence of the Lord, and you'll discover God's favor in your everyday life.
Whoever gives heed to instruction prospers, and blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord.
Partner with CBN to get your copy of Pat's new audio CD, The Transforming Word, Volume 3. Plus, as a special bonus, you'll receive a DVD of Pat's teaching, The 3 Blessings. Immerse your mind in The Transforming Word, Volume 3. Plus, Pat's teaching, The 3 Blessings. Call now or go to cbn.com.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans! Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Well, welcome back. Before I go to our next story, I'd like to do a GTD spotlight on New Orleans Saints linebacker Demario Davis, who was fined $7,000 for wearing a headband with the words "Man of God" on it. Now, the fine was waived, but he decided to take all the proceeds from the headband and donate them to St. Dominic Hospital in his home state of Mississippi. So far, he's raised over $120,000 and maybe a little bit more with my purchase. That's how we doing it. Boom. There we go. There we go. That's how I'm doing it. Awesome job, Demario. Well, our next story is about Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz, who is putting in work to win the NFC East. The North Dakota native is no stranger to hard work, and he understands that everything that has and will happen in his life is God's process of shaping and molding him into the person God wants him to be. Here's Tom Barry.
Carson Wentz plays quarterback much like he lives life, impromptu, eagerly creating plays that both score points and impact lives. The North Dakota native led the NDSU Bison to 2 national championships before finding the fast track to Philadelphia, becoming the face of the Eagles franchise in a journey where home still stays within reach.
It always just hits me a little different when I come back home and I see kids wearing my jersey. I was that kid. I was the kid who grew up and walked these streets. I was the kid who was at these football camps that I might be putting on. Too much fun?
Yeah.
What did the North Dakota upbringing deposit in your life, Carson?
Yeah, growing up in North Dakota, I think the makeup of North Dakotans in general and the makeup of the Midwest, just kind of those family values and Christian values that are kind of instilled in you when you're younger. So those things have stuck with me to this day.
describe your quarterback style?
I think my quarterback style is unique. I want to be a pocket passer first, but when I need to extend plays and do things with my legs, I'll definitely take advantage of that. I feel like I'm a gunslinger, and I'm willing to take chances. I'm willing to force a pass here and there, and playing with that mentality and just kind of playing freely out there.
Is that a part of your personality?
It is. I think that kind of abstract mind and kind of playing off schedule sometimes and improvising, I think is definitely how my mind is, and it's always running, it's always going, always thinking of the next thing, and that's definitely how I play the game too.
What's most appealing about Philly for a North Dakota guy?
I absolutely just love the fans here. I love the passion that they bring. It's just such a unique culture in this city of blue-collar work ethic and just a deep-rooted sense of belonging and purpose within these games. So it's so much bigger than just a Sunday afternoon football game. And they always show up. They bring their best. They bring their A game. Good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter. The fans are always there, and I love that about this place.
You're a part of a Super Bowl team. You positioned them to get there, but because of injury, you weren't able to see that through.
Yeah.
What did you take away from that win by simply supporting and watching?
I mean, I learned a lot about myself. I always preach, I play for an audience of one and just have that mindset. I'm always talking about it. But then when it came down to it and I wasn't able to be out there, I had to really put that faith in action, and really just ultimately say, all right, God, I'm surrendering all of this to you. And it was tough. And so it was definitely a journey that I had to take, but I thank God for it in the end.
Are you aware in the moment, I need to put this into practice?
Yeah, you see some little things. Maybe it's just some little hardening of the heart or maybe some certain things that maybe kind of crept into the idol side, and maybe I was, putting football maybe a little too much on that platform, and I think God was just molding me to be more like Him and really truly value Him first, and ultimately say it's His. This is just a gift, this is a platform, this is ability that I've been given, but it's His.
You have chosen, as you said, to narrow your audience to one. Let me hear that from you. For whom and why?
I can't escape it. That's just my life motto. And the phrase audience of one, I actually have it tattooed on my wrist. AO1 came to me when I was a freshman in college. That's when my faith really became real to me and really became a personal relationship with Christ. And I heard someone say that phrase, a great reminder for me when I'm out there playing, but it's everything I do. Serving my wife, being a son or a friend, whatever it is, the Lord is my audience. And playing Monday Night Football, you're being watched by millions, or the media is writing things about you, good or bad. What matters is how God views you and what He says that you are.
You have the foundation under the same name, Audience of One. Messaging Christianity, you guys are doing that.
I think it's twofold. I think when you're sharing the gospel, you're verbally sharing, expressing who Christ is, but it also, so many people, our lives are changed because of how you live, because of how you walk it out. That's something that we strive to do with the AO1 Foundation, with Thy Kingdom Come, partnering to build the Haiti Sports Complex, with the outdoor ministry that we have going in the Midwest. We always want to tangibly bless somebody with an opportunity, with food, with something unique that'll fix a physical need, but a spiritual need at the same time. That's what it's all about.
What makes Thy Kingdom Come unique?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is it's free. It's an opportunity for people to just open up, engage, have a community block party, and then hopefully dig a little deeper spiritually.
Camp Conqueror.
Yeah.
What message is it you want them to remember?
I mean, it is that message of overcoming, and ultimately that message of overcoming through Jesus. Obviously, they're going through some amazingly difficult things, and the biggest thing we want them to hold on to and cling to is that Jesus is greater than all of those things. We set them up for some amazing experiences here, to leave with some amazing memories, friendships, relationships. We want to foster that environment. We want to nurture that. We want to disciple them as we leave here as well.
You're learning about being a conqueror. What does that mean to you?
It means to overcome your fears and just be brave and do what you love to do.
Everyone's different. Everyone's at a different place. Everyone's had a different experience with maybe the church, maybe with someone with their family. So just first and foremost, meeting people where they are, loving on people, helping them feel seen. So it's not always just about what you say to them, it's how you care for them, how you show love and respect for them.
How does it evolve from cliche to conviction about a God that wants to engage with you?
Yeah, God wants me to ultimately surrender to Him, have that relationship with Him, and that's truly all that matters. So for me to have my Lord Jesus Christ as my audience, it just changes my perspective on everything.
So with the NFL guaranteed contract, what is personally lost when putting confidence in perceived certainty?
That's a good question. You know, when you have a contract of that value, it's so easy to just rest on that. And financially, that's an amazing blessing, and to not lose sight of that. But it's something you always got to guard against, being too invested into financial success, personal success, because at the end of the day, if your relationship with Christ is out of order, everything else is going to be a mess, be missing the most important thing in life.
Now, there's a guy that's going the distance on and off the field, regardless of the circumstances. He understands he still has a platform and a ministry. Thy Kingdom Crumb, Camp Conquerors, and look, I'm not even gonna lie, those burgers he was passing out look really good. Way to use your platform, Carson. We'll be right back after this.
As the world watches from the outside,
it's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline, Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
Welcome back. Well, our next story is about Sean Clayton, a man that had every reason to be angry, but it consumed him until he met God.
It's just amazing like how far God can really take you, you know, from being a crack addict on the streets to running ultra marathons and sitting in senators' houses having dinner with them. We grew up in a trailer. My dad, he decided he was going to send missionaries and start a painting business.
When Shawn was 12, his parents also made the decision to adopt 3 children from Guatemala.
2 sisters and a brother. There's the difference in languages, but they started homeschooling with us. They seemed happy. They were happy to be in the family. Me and my older brother, Ugo, had started to work with my dad. Ugo had trouble because he wasn't waking up to go to work like he was supposed to.
The quiet day of work was interrupted by a phone call from the police. Something was wrong at home. Ugo was asking neighbors for help, and their mother was bleeding on the kitchen floor.
Me and my dad were driving home trying to figure out what was going on. I remember flying down the highway, I was crying. They had already taken my brother Ugo back down to the house to start getting his story. He said that he walked in the house, somebody was in the house with a bandana. They ran past him out the back door. He saw my mom laying on the ground bleeding and ran up the street. They noticed things weren't lining up.
By that night, police had pieced together the real events.
Around like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he was playing the Nintendo, playing video games. My mom told him that he needed to go to his school. He ended up bringing the math book in, had the knife under the math book. She grabbed it and saw the knife and screamed, and that's when he killed her. He was 14. He ended up getting charged as a juvenile, and he got sentenced to 11 years in prison. I thought my mom's life was worth more than 11 years in prison, and so basically from that point on, I decided I was gonna kill him. I would get a premeditated murder charge. I would either go to prison for the rest of my life or I would receive the death penalty. So like I I never even pictured really living past 27, you know? I was a pretty angry guy, like I didn't understand, you know? My mom loved people so much that she was gonna adopt them and take them out of a horrible situation, basically, and then he just lets my brother kill her. Like that, I just couldn't deal with it. I was mad at the world. I ran away from home. I spent my 15th birthday in the children's home. I started fighting, I started using drugs.
Hoping to put him on a different path, Shawn was sent to military school.
So I got kicked out when I was 16, came back to South Carolina, and my dad was like, you need to do something, try and join the military or something. So I was like, well, if I join the military, I'll have extra money and I can sell drugs. Dad signed off on it. I turned 17 in June, and I went into the military in September. I was always fighting. I was still getting arrested in the military for fighting. So I was drinking a lot, smoking crack quite a bit right before I went to Afghanistan.
While deployed to Afghanistan, Shawn continued his self-destructive behavior. But one night, he went too far.
I started drinking and I ended up blacking out, and I was just laying on the ground. And so they took me to the medical tent to try and get me awake. And they finally got me awake, and I went to walk out, and one of them grabbed me. They grabbed me, I hit him, and then another guy tried to grab me, and I hit them, and ended up with about 5 assault charges.
Facing 13 charges totaling 36 years in prison, Shawn began to reflect and pray.
I remember just thinking about life and how it was just gonna go on, and that I really didn't matter. Like, my whole life had been so self-centered on me to be this bad dude and kill my brother, and it was like so much, it was just all me. And I remember just sitting there being like, I'm gonna be like 50 years old, the entire world is gonna go on without me, and it's not gonna make any difference. I started praying, I started reading my Bible. I remember praying and just hearing God say, like, this is the last time I'm gonna get you out of something. And shortly after that, I had a meeting with my lawyer over there, and they said if I would take the other than honorable discharge, that I would leave the military. I would end up spending 30 days in jail, and I would lose my pay for 2 months, and then I would have the other honorable discharge, and I would leave the military.
Shawn served his time and was immediately discharged from the military.
I came back, I was definitely dealing with the PTSD stuff. I stopped sleeping at night. I didn't have a job, and I did start drinking again and smoking weed.
Feeling trapped, Shawn eventually accepted his father's invitation to attend church.
Yeah, I think I was just searching for answers. The pastor was preaching on 1 John chapter 4, where he's talking about how can you say you love God whom you have not seen and hate your brother whom you have seen. I was just thinking about my brother that had killed my mom, and I know it's talking about your neighbor, but for me, I was like, how could I love my brother after he killed my mom? And so I started to wrestle with that for a couple weeks. I remember it was almost like every day or so I'd be like, God, how could I love him after he killed my mother? How could I forgive him after he killed my mother? Just one day I was asking that question. It was almost, it wasn't audible, but it was the answer that I got back was, how could I love you when you killed my son? And I just understood the weight of my sin, and that Jesus had died for me, and I understood what love was from that point on. I have to forgive him. Who am I not to forgive somebody if this is what I've been forgiven of? If I've been forgiven of the death of Jesus. So I knew I had to forgive him. That was a big point. That was a big changing point in my life. Stopped doing it, stopped smoking weed altogether. I wasn't getting drunk. I wasn't out looking for fights or anything like that. That was all gone. I got married at 18 right before I deployed. It was so changing that my wife was like, what is happening to you? She just didn't understand it. We started going to church regularly, and I was growing a lot. I was starting to do evangelism stuff, outreach stuff, and trying to get my life back together, really.
Shawn was still searching for a challenge and larger purpose when a manager at work suggested an idea.
He said that he was gonna go run a marathon, and I was like, well, that sounds pretty cool. And I found half marathon, the Spartan Beast. And they were like, this is the hardest event ever. It's gonna kill you. You're not gonna finish, blah, blah, blah. So I started doing the obstacle races and loved the challenge. And I started getting better. So Ninja Warrior, my family told me that I needed to do that. They told me it was just a bunch of obstacles, and I was good at obstacles. Put a video together, sent it in, and they were like, we want you to come on the show. It's definitely cool to see like what God did with all that. I was meeting police chiefs, I was meeting mayors, they were giving me certificates, you know, for being an outstanding citizen and being a role model. Here I am, you know, this ex like gang mayor, crack addict, and like I'm sitting in a senator's house having dinner with them, like only God can do that stuff.
A few years later, God restored Shawn's military standing.
I ended up getting my military discharge upgraded, and they upgraded to honorable. So I didn't even know, but I got all my benefits back. I have a successful marriage. You know, I've been married 11 years. I have kids that are happy. I'm still very busy, full-time school, working and training, but I have more opportunities now. It really is. It's a God thing. I never could have imagined those are the things that I would be doing after the life that I did live. You know, the people that are out there like I was, well, you know, what are you waiting on? Stop running from God, give him a chance, and your life can be completely changed.
What an incredible story. It reminds us that God has a plan for us regardless of what path we may find ourselves on. So remember what it says in Jeremiah 29:11. God knows the plans he has for you. And look, that's evidence that he does in fact have a plan. So believe me when I tell you that great things are coming if you walk with him and stay the course. We'll be right back after this.
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there, providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
It's like a great attraction. There's not a chain reaction, but almost satisfaction. I love the way this joy makes me move. Yeah, I got that. I'm dancing around because I'm loyal. I'm moving around because I got it. Joy's in the heart.
Well, welcome back. Look, I'd like to thank you for joining us, and be sure to tune in next week for more stories of faith, sports, and everything in between. And remember, life is short. Go to this.